and gentlemen, and welcome to the Best of ARCA. Tonight we're at the Owosso Speedway for the running of the Engineered Components 200. There have been 8 races in the 1995 ARCA Bondo Mar-Hyde series, and there have been 7 different winners. Tonight we're going to have some great racing. Kenny Schrader is here tonight, and Andy Hillenberg, 2 drivers who just got back from Daytona after running the Winston Cup race. Hillenberg, the current point leader, is the only driver to have repeated so far in 1995. Of course, he won at Daytona and at Flat Rock in the Miller Genuine Draft 150. Take a look at this crowd back here. They're just about to meet the drivers, and we're ready to go racing.
It's been 10 years since the ARCA Bondo Mar-Hyde series has visited Owosso Speedway in northern Michigan, and 28 cars are ready to start the grid. Here's your SK Hand Tools field summary. Starting 28th, Mark Gibson and Charlie Newby's Atlas Copco Tools Chrysler. Glenn Brewer from Columbus, Georgia in the CSR Lewandowski ride. A.J. Hendrickson, the teenager, in his first career start in 26th. And Jeff McClure, he'll start 25th, the veteran from Denver, North Carolina. Bob Dodds from Dayton, Ohio, he's running every race this year in the Numerics Unlimited car, is 24th. Roger Blackstock of Shelby Township, 23rd, of Michigan driver. Michael Benjamin of Iowa is 22nd. John Stratman in the BFI Recycle Now car is 21st. Harris Devane in C.L. Jones's Highland Timber Ford, he'll be 20th. And Tim Preby, a Flint, Michigan driver, he's 19th. 18th on the grid, Ann Arbor, Michigan's Mike Buckley. Chet Blanton from Plainfield, Indiana, he'll be 17th. Bob Shack, the second-place point driver in the Engineered Components Ford, he's 16th. Jody Guerra from Dayton, Ohio, and Dan Faldorf's Pontiac is 15th. Tim Steele in the HS Dye Simlink Ford is 14th on the grid. He's the 93 Series champion. And Perry Tripp from Fredericktown, Missouri, in the WW Transport Motorcycle Stuff Oldsmobile, he'll be 13th on tonight's grid. And there are your top 12 qualifiers. Frank Kimmel, the runner-up for the championship in 1994. He's Terry Shirley's Papa John's Pizza Old in 12th. Dill Whittemore in the Kramer Steel, Indiana Steel Chevrolet, he's 11th. Dave Simcoe, a veteran of this racetrack, he's in 10th position. Donnie LeDuc from Clinton Township, Michigan, in the Oldsmobile, the Tech 3 Prototypes car, is 9th. Scott Neal, the youngster from Middletown, Indiana, in the Jack's Lawn Service ride, he's 8th. And the current point leader, straight from Daytona, Andy Hillenberg, he's 7th on the grid. 2-time series champion Marvin Smith and Jim Coyle's Riverside Auto Parts Chevrolet will be 6th. Bob Hill and Larry Clement Chevy Mack Chevrolet is 5th. Ken Schrader, again straight from Daytona, he'll be outside the second row with only a couple of laps of practice. Randy Churchill, the veteran from Windsor, Ontario, Canada, he'll be 3rd. Eric Smith outside pole, excellent qualifying run in his father's Southtown Motorsports Ford. And the pole qualifier, the Talladega Pole Award, goes to Bobby Bowser in the Quality Farm and Fleet Ford. He'll start first of 28 cars on the grid tonight in the 200-lapper of the Engineered Components 200 here at Owosso Speedway.
Well, the sun is setting here in central Michigan, and we're ready to go racing in the ARCA Bondo Mar-Hyde Supercar Series. Don't go away. We're going to take a short commercial break, and we'll come back with the Engineered Components 200. Welcome back to Owosso Speedway. Tonight's ARCA Bondo Mar-Hyde Supercar Series, event number 9 of 1995. I'm Ray Dunlap along with Ron Dreger bringing you the broadcast tonight. And Ron, a great qualifying run for Eric Smith, but here's Bobby Bowser on the pole again for the 4th time in 1995.
Well, Bobby's having a little bit of a tough time finishing races. He's not where he'd like to be in the point standings, down a little bit, but he sure has had a stellar year for Talladega Pole Award qualifying positions, and that also puts him in line for that AC Rapid Fire Spark Plug Challenge to win the pole and the race.
Lots of bonus money throughout 1995 going to be available from AC Rapid Fire, and we're underway. The green flag flies, and Bowser brings him down the front straightaway.
You know, Ray, it's been 10 years since this series has been at Owosso Speedway here in Michigan, and the last time that we were here, this racetrack was a 1/2-mile dirt track. A lot of changes have taken place, and obviously the most significant, it's now a paved track, and it's shortened to 3/8 mile. If you look out over the backstretch as the cars go down through there, you can see where the old track used to be. It used to be a big 1/2 mile.
Underway with racing right now. Marvin Smith moves up there into 4th position. Here comes Bob Hill with a challenge to him and Scott Neal. A lot of good racing, 2x2 all the way down the front straightaway. Donnie LeDuc in car number 55 has moved up 2 positions, and there comes Frank Kimmel. They're racing alongside with number 11, Andy Hillenberg. Boy, Hillenburg has had an interesting day today, as well as Kenny Schrader, two drivers that raced earlier today at the Daytona International Speedway and made it all the way up here to Owosso. So we'll keep our eye on both of those drivers. They've got to have a bit of fatigue.
Yeah, we were talking to both of those guys earlier, and actually, I would have to say that even though Schrader's about 10 years older than Hillenburg, he looked a little fresher walking around the pit area.
Well, Andy not used to all that racing in one day, but we'll keep our eye on them today. Here goes Simcoe down the back straightaway racing with Donnie LeDuc. Dave Simcoe, part of the family here at Owosso.
Dave Simcoe's father, Elmer Simcoe, was a short track driver in the Detroit area back in the early days. And as we watch Dave Simcoe in the yellow number 51 going down the backstretch there, Elmer Simcoe owns this racetrack, Owosso Speedway. Elmer's daughter, Jane, who is married to Wayne Setterington. Jane Setterington is the promoter here at Owosso. And his other daughter, Dina Simcoe, drives an IMCA Modified.
Yeah, family business here at Owosso. Oh, Simcoe out of shape there, coming out of turn 2 as he makes contact there with Tim Steele. He gathers it back up, but out of the park goes Dave Simcoe in car number 51. Just after he made contact with Steele, he had gathered it back up, but then here comes Frank Kimmel, and that punted Dave Simcoe right out of the park.
Yeah, boy, that was a situation where really nowhere to go. Frank Kimmel didn't have anything he could do other than just try to drive on through. If he slowed down too much, he'd get hit from behind. Here's Simcoe. He's a little out of shape now. The car lifted up a little bit there as it went around.
Yeah, that was the AC Rapid Fire replay, and Simcoe now back onto the racetrack after going out of turn number 3. Of course, no wall on the backstretch, and it appears no major damage to car number 51.
Well, as we see darkness moving in, we should note that Eric Smith, we mentioned he had an excellent qualifying run, an outside pole. This is a guy who has never won a race, but he finished second a couple weeks ago at Kilcare, really putting on a good show this year so far in 95. Dave Simcoe with a lapped car. He'll come up to the inside for the restart. Lapped cars to the inside, lead lap cars on the outside.
Doesn't appear there's any major damage to Simcoe's car as we're ready to go right back to green, and the green flag is out again. You know, good call there on Eric Smith. He has really put together a nice program in 1995. They've led a couple of races, and he's been in position to win. And last year we saw him at the Des Moines Grand Prix leading a big portion of that race, showing some talents in road course racing we didn't even know he had.
Yeah, Eric Smith has been around this series since 1983. He scored his first ever top 5 finishes back in the 94 season. Now this car that they're driving tonight, it's a brand new car. Terry Walker, the crew chief, and Cleve Smith, Eric's father, who ran the ARCA series back in the late 60s and early 70s. This is a brand new car that they brought out just for 1995, and it really has shown that it's a good performing Ford Thunderbird.
Yeah, great looking race car too. And Eric is out front right now. Dave Simcoe a lap down. He's the car that got knocked off the backstretch. And here comes Kenny Schrader. Schrader and Randy Churchill now moving up to put a little pressure on car number 9. Of course, that lapped car of Simcoe in the way. And here we go, 2 by 2 down the back straightaway.
The blue car at the lead is Scott Neal. Bob Hill is in the 46, and just outside of him is Donnie LeDuc. Then there's Hillenburg, Dill Whittemore, and looks like Tim Steele, just too wide all the way down through there.
Yeah, we made mention of Tim Steele in the starting lineup there from SK Tools. You mentioned that he had a Ford. Well, tonight he actually has a Chevrolet. They're debuting this new race car here tonight. It's a Chevy Monte Carlo. The sponsor stays the same, HS Dye and Simlink, but we're used to saying Tim Steele in a Ford. Tonight he's in a Chevrolet.
Bobby Bowser, we see, has not really shown the Talladega Pole Award qualifying effort that he gave earlier today. You see that Schrader has gotten past. 44 car now in 4th is Randy Churchill, and Marvin Smith has also bypassed Bobby Bowser, so he's dropping back a bit there. Simcoe, a lap down, but hanging right with the leaders. And there's your leader, Eric Smith, and then 2nd, 3rd, and 4th come by there. 5th place, Bobby Bowser.
Moving right up on the tail of Bowser's Quality Farm and Fleet Ford is Scott Neal in car number 24. This is a driver who knows how to go to victory lane. Last year he won at the Salem Speedway in ARCA Bondo Mar-Hyde Racing. Frank Kimmel there gets a little bit of squeeze to the outside as he has to drop in behind Tim Steele to go around David Hall in car number 61 from Blue Springs, Missouri.
Scott Neal in his first ever ARCA start. He's one of very, very few drivers ever to go to victory lane the first time he's ever driven an ARCA race. Boy, what a move by Donnie LeDuc. Look at the 55 car weaving in and out. He bypassed Neal. Now he's to the outside of Bobby Bowser.
A very fast car underneath the wheel of Donnie LeDuc, number 55. Tech 3 Prototypes, the sponsorship on that Oldsmobile. And boy, he blasted past Scott Neal and now moves up on Bowser. The racing continues 2 wide all the way through the turn number 4 and down the front straightaway. Dill Whittemore, we've seen him come on as of late in the last few short track races, putting together a pretty good effort, there in car number 56.
Speaking of pretty good efforts, there comes Bob Hill. He's driving Larry Clements Chevy Mack Chevrolet in the 46. He's underneath Scott Neal, and now he goes past. So perhaps Neal not able to stick on the bottom the way he'd like to. Donnie LeDuc has gone past, and now Bob Hill. Whoop!
Little contact.
Give him a little tap there.
Yep, little contact between Neal there and number 46, Bob Hill. But look to the inside. Here comes Hillenberg in car number 11. This race car that looks an awful lot like a past champion used to drive here in the ARCA Series.
Yeah, and that's no coincidence either, Ray. That's Bob Dodder, the veteran crew chief, 3-time series champion, over 200 starts on this ARCA Bondo Mar-Hyde Series. He's a crew chief on Andy Hillenberg's team, and that's one of Bob Dodder's old short track cars, the 11 car. And it's a good performing car. It won a race earlier this season, the Miller Genuine Draft 150 at Flat Rock Speedway.
You know, we mentioned in the open of the show that Hillenberg is the only repeat winner so far this season, and it's because of efforts like this that we've seen him be able to do it. Here he comes through traffic. They're going around number 09. That's Bob Dodds from Dayton, Ohio there, and Hillenberg has moved right up there to race with these guys who are racing for 6th and 7th position.
3 wide there. Frank Kimmel on the inside of Bob Dodds, Tim Steele on the outside, and Hillenberg thought about going 3 wide about a lap ago there. Andy said, you know, a lot of times Bob Dodder won't talk to him a lot on the radio, and he'll come to him after the race, and Andy will say, Bob, I got myself in trouble there. How come you didn't come on the radio and say, hey, don't try to stick your nose in there? And Bob said, well, that's something you just got to learn for yourself. Experience,
that's the key. Taking a look to the inside here of Eric Smith goes number 52. That's Kenny Schrader, and this is a pass for the lead. Here goes Schrader in the 52 AC Delco Oldsmobile, and he is flying now as he has made his way past Eric Smith coming out of turn 2.
Well, there he is. So earlier today, he drives the Budweiser Chevrolet at the Daytona International Speedway, the Pepsi 400 NASCAR Winston Cup race. Tonight, he's on the point in the AC Delco Oldsmobile here at Owosso Speedway in the ARCA Bondo Mar-Hyde Series in the Engineered Components 200. A lot of racing today for Ken Schrader.
Maybe that's what you should do, is just race all day long, because Hillenberg is blasting through the field, and Schrader is now at the point. He's leading the race tonight here in front of an excellent crowd. A very chilly night at the Owosso Speedway as the sun is starting to set and the coolness is moving in. That'll probably change the complexion of this race in the later stages. Dave Simcoe, however, has been able to stay right up there after his early race incident.
That's one of the unique things about the various different racetracks that the ARCA Bondo Mar-Hyde Series visits. This is a racetrack that does not have a retaining wall all the way around the racetrack. Now, that may have saved Dave Simcoe from some significant damage to his race car, but it just looks funny to see somebody go over the backside and disappear.
The first time we raced at Pensacola's Five Flag Speedway, we had the same situation. Bob Keselowski got knocked out of the backstretch, only it wasn't quite as easy for him to get back up through there. But here at Owosso, in that backstretch, at least it's a real clean area back there, so Simcoe was able to make it back on the stretch. And we have a car spun over in turn number 4, and that's Jody Guerra, car number 13, the J.D. Dankin entry, and Guerra has looped it, and that brings out the caution for the second time tonight here at Owosso.
Jody Guerra having a good season so far in Dan Faldorf's car. A little bit of a spin there, and we are under caution.
And we're going to pay some bills, so we'll be back in 2 minutes. Don't go away. Welcome back to Ovid, Michigan, and the Owosso Speedway, ready to go back to green flag racing. Kenny Schrader brings the field down with Randy Churchill and Eric Smith following him. We're back under green.
And you can see the darkness moving in. It is getting very windy and very cold here. We're not sure. We're not going to get any kind of weather coming in. The way the conditions have changed so significantly, and the cars handling have got to change quite a bit during these periods of changing weather too, Ray.
For sure. Mark Gibson there in car number 7. He's driving a Chrysler tonight, driving for Charlie Newby, the veteran crew chief. And Gibson now not appearing to have a car that's able to run right up front with these guys that are doing it up front. Schrader now has made quite a distance between first and second.
Caution flag is out. We get a nice shot there from turns 1 and 2, and we see that the problem is at the bottom of turn 3.
It appears that's Perry Tripp. Yes, it is. Car number 6, the WW Transport Oldsmobile. Of course, Perry Tripp back in 1994 picked up a couple of awards at the 1994 ARCA Bondo Mar-Hyde Series banquet. He was given the Prestone Most Advanced and the Hoosier Tire Midwest Hard Charger Award. And those are positions for most improved throughout the season, and Perry doing a nice job, but looping it tonight, bringing out caution number 3. Tonight's race being brought to you by Mar-Hyde brand spray paints. For the smoothest finish in auto paints, choose Mar-Hyde. See the yellow out there by starter Henry Wetzel. We should be just about ready to go back under white. Yeah, the indication is 1 lap to go, Ron, and we'll be back to racing.
So Schrader, your leader, just a little bit about his history in this ARCA Bondo Mar-Hyde series. The first super speedway race Ken Schrader ever drove was in the ARCA series back at Daytona in 1981. That was the first time he'd ever driven a super speedway race. And the winner of that race was Tim Richmond.
Tim Richmond, that goes back a ways, huh? Tonight's race here at Owosso being brought to you by SK Hand Tools, the official tool of the ARCA Bondo Mar-Hyde Supercar Series. Ready to go back to racing. Ken Schrader, your leader. Randy Churchill second. Eric Smith third. And those cars on the inside, again, are 1 or more laps down.
Churchill has moved up a little bit on Schrader, and you've got to wonder if that was just hanging back, or, like we said, the cars may be changing a little bit on as far as the handling goes. And this is a 200-lap race, but in talking to the drivers beforehand, nobody really planned to come in and get tires. They were going to try to run the whole way on 1 set of tires.
And this is a racetrack that none of these drivers have competed on before, so that certainly makes it interesting. A lot of the cars we see drifting way up high there on the backstretch, and some of them get their right side tires off of that backstretch because, as you mentioned, there is no wall. That could come into play later on as far as creating debris back there, or maybe just wearing the tires out from going off the racing surface.
Well, I'll tell you who's having a good night is Don LeDuc in his Tech 3 prototype solds. He's staying right in the top 5 on the lead lap, running up front, and he's had some good runs of late. We're looking right now at Bob Hill, that's car 46, and Frank Kimmel, 02. Hill is in Larry Clement's Chevrolet. Kimmel is in a Papa John's Pizza Oldsmobile. They're having a good race right here. Kimmel, this is a critical point in his season, you might say. This is a Papa John's Pizza sponsorship. Is just for a limited time, and if he can show them that he can run up front in these races and get them some good exposure, that'll carry on for the remainder of the 95 season.
And Kimmel certainly capable of doing that. In 1994, he finished second in the points, and quite honestly, if Bobby Bowser hadn't had the most incredible season that he had, Kimmel probably would have been a competitor for that championship title. Right now, Kenny Schrader leads him down the back straightaway. We see Glenn Brewer there in car number 10, who is slowed on the backstretch in his Oldsmobile. Now Schrader getting a little bit of a challenge from car number 44. Randy Churchill takes a peek to the inside.
Here he comes to the inside. He's the veteran. Oh, a spin down at the bottom. That's Andy Hillenberg tied up. Schrader locks him up. Churchill drives on by, and it looks like it's going to be Randy Churchill. Yep. They're going to race back around to the caution, but they've all slowed. It's Churchill be your new leader.
Yeah, there's another car. Up in the turn number 4, there's another car who has spun. So a couple of cars getting off the track here, and Randy Churchill takes advantage of the skirmish on the racetrack to make the move around number 52, Kenny Schrader, but with the caution out, he comes down the front straightaway, and Churchill, now your new leader.
So here we take a look at it again, the move for the lead. Here's Churchill. He was already going to go underneath Schrader before anything had ever happened. Schrader had drifted up, and Churchill was indeed underneath him. And then up in front of that, there's Hillenberg getting involved in another car. Churchill drifts up high. Schrader locks him up to turn sideways, and there's your leader, Randy Churchill.
So Churchill takes the lead there in our AC Rapid Fire replay. And I think that's Donnie LeDuc who spun up there in turn number 4. So bad luck for number 55 as he's been having an excellent run. And look at this. Car number 11 in the pit area there. We see Bob Dotter, who we mentioned earlier, the crew chief, and a major overheating problem for car number 11.
We're ankled up the front end pretty good. We're ready to go back to green flag racing. Green flag is out. Randy Churchill, your leader. Ken Schrader runs second. Eric Smith still hangs in there in third. Scott Neal is your 4th place car. 5th is Frank Kimmel in the Papa John's car. Those are your top 5 runners right here at this point in the race.
Car number 12, Roger Blackstock there, a little bit squirrely coming out of turn number 2 as we're back under racing conditions. You know, we mentioned Scott Neal, who picked up his first win last year at the Salem Speedway. Another driver who also got his first career win was Randy Churchill. He won at I-70 last season.
That's the truth. Randy Churchill competed in a limited basis in the ARCA Bondo Mar-Hyde Series back in 1988 when his father, Jerry Churchill, had a couple of ARCA Bondo Mar-Hyde Series cars, had different drivers in the second car at various times, and Randy got a taste of it. He was still running weekly race events back at Checkered Flag Speedway in Windsor, Ontario. He won the championship there in 1994, the track championship, and the track announced that it was going out of business, being paved under for a shopping mall or some sort of thing. And Randy said, I'm going to take my own car and go ARCA Bondo Mar-Hyde Series racing. And he's really come on and done well. Now, the race that he won at I-70 was in his father's Ford Thunderbird last year at I-70. This is Randy's own car. It's the Dart Machine Beaver Express Chevrolet. This is a car that he owns and fields out of his, now significantly, Andy Hillenberg comes back on the Speedway, current point leader. He needs to get some laps completed and finish up high, but this is Churchill in his own race car, and he's really proud of this team.
Glenn Brewer there moving over to let the leaders go by, and as you mentioned, now Hillenberg coming out of the pits, he's several laps down and out of contention today, and Ron, believe it or not, he has never ever finished out of the top 10 in his ARCA Bondo Mar-Hyde Series career. Tonight it looks like that very well may come to an end, and another car spins down in turn number 1, and that is Donnie LeDuc again. Second time spinner for Donnie LeDuc.
Boy, that's a tough thing for him. He was running so very well. Now a couple of spins, didn't really see if he got any help on those spins or not, but either way it knocks him back out of the way. And when you run down over the rumble strips down into the grass, the car bounces up and down. It's just not the same race car it was prior to that.
So Donnie LeDuc with his second spin tonight, and Randy Churchill leads him down the back straightaway with Kenny Schrader in the AC Delco Chevrolet. He's in second place currently. Of course, this is a car that he purchased from 1993 ARCA Bondo Mar-Hyde champion Tim Steele. We'll take a short break. Back to Owosso in a moment. And welcome back to the Owosso Speedway. Tonight's Engineered Components 200 being brought to you by Unical 76. Go with the Spirit. The Spirit of 76 is listed as the official fuel and motor oil of the ARCA Bondo Mar-Hyde Supercar Series. Randy Churchill, your leader, Ron, and now the lap cars again move up to the inside as we're ready to go back to racing.
Randy Churchill in pursuit of his second career ARCA Bondo Mar-Hyde Series victory. Less than 20 starts on this series in his career, but he's really come on. This is a good car. It's a car that's run up front in several races. Ken Schrader runs right in the second place there. Schrader led a good bit of this race early on, picked up the Auto Value Parts Store's halfway leader. Oh, there he goes high, and there he goes.
Here comes Schrader down the backstretch in the AC Delco entry, and he makes the move past Churchill. But look at that, a little bumper to the inside of Kenny Schrader, and they have to look around Donnie LeDuc in car number 55, a lap down, and boy, there was some contact there. And Ron, look to the inside there, running in lap down also, who started right behind Donnie LeDuc, car number 75 of Bob Schacht.
Caution's out.
Yep, hard to believe Schacht is a lap down early this stage of the race, but the yellow flies again. Unbelievable racing action tonight. There must be a full moon out or something.
Yeah, but do you think Schrader had in mind what he was going to plan on doing once they went back to racing?
Take the lead. That's where Schrader wants to be all the time.
Well, the caution flies again, but that was a good bit of racing, even though it was a short green flag period that we had. You saw Ken Schrader make a nice move on Randy Churchill, and then Churchill came back and knocked on the door and said, I'm going to be right here in case you slip up.
Yep, and that has happened a number of times tonight as these drivers have changed positions for the lead. Bobby Bowser started on the pole tonight. Eric Smith has led in his Southtown Motorsports Ford, but throughout the bulk of this race, it's been Kenny Schrader and Randy Churchill passing it back and forth, and right now, Kenny Schrader up front, where we see him a lot in the NASCAR Winston Cup Series.
We've had an abnormally large amount of caution flags and caution flag laps here at Owosso Speedway tonight. It's really not that common to have these ARCA Bondo Mar-Hyde Series short track races run this many laps under caution, and it's really extending the length of the race out here. A longer race. Look at the wheel marks on the side of Schrader's AC Delco car.
You know, we talk about a longer race, and many of the short track races are 150 laps. But tonight, with this number of cautions that we've had, it's certainly going to help the drivers conserve fuel, so that'll make a big difference in their pit stop strategy. Of course, none of these drivers wanting to go to the pits if they don't have to.
We look back over the field there. There's Todd Setterington, the assistant flagman, out there taking a look at the racetrack. We've got an oil leak, and now all the track officials and the ARCA Bondo Mar-Hyde Series officials are going to attempt to identify which car it is that's leaking oil on a speedway.
Of course, the pace car bringing the field through here abnormally slow. This gives a chance for each of the officials to get a look underneath each of the race cars, see if they can find out who the culprit is that's laying down either oil or some type of transmission fluid. And boy, look at Andy Hillenberg's car, Ron. They're smashed up. An incredible day for this young driver. The current point leader has had a very interesting day.
Well, big day. We got up about 4 this morning. Went out to the racetrack there at Daytona about 6, and ran the race today. It started at about 11 o'clock. As soon as the race was over, we jumped on an airplane, and we was in the airplane for about 2 hours, 15 minutes or so, and landed over here and made it just in time to go qualify here today, and went out and qualified 7th, ran the heat race, so really looking forward to the feature tonight.
Well, and what a guy. He's unfortunately, Ray, 11 laps down after that mishap that he had earlier in the evening, and like you said, as far as a top 10 finish here tonight, not going to happen for the first time in his career.
Well, it's been a long day for him, certainly, and we look like it should be just a couple of laps before we go back under green again. Lights are currently on the pace car there and coming down the front straightaway. Kenny Schrader warming up the tires a little bit. The white flag is in the air, 1 lap to go, and we'll be back underway in the Engineered Components 200.
Well, I got the opportunity to finish, I think, my Simcoe family history here at Owosso. The inside of the lap car field there, that's Bob Schacht. Bob Schacht's wife, Patty Schacht, the daughter of track owner Elmer Simcoe. And I hope that's all of it.
It's all in the family tonight here at Owosso. Schacht a lap down in the Engineered Components Ford. Of course, this is a brand new race car they just brought out for the first time tonight, and it's probably just trying to work the bugs out a little bit. That's why this car maybe not be as fast as we normally see Bob Schacht racing. Roger Blackstock to the inside. He's a lap down, and here we go, back underway, and some great racing now, 2 wide all the way down the front and back straightaway.
A lot of speedy dry, oil dry down. Watch them as they go through there. You saw Bob Schacht on the restart. This car wanted to skid a little bit on him, so let's take a look at that. You know, out of that 4th turn, a lot of 3 wide racing tonight, especially when the leaders come up on the lapped car. 3 wide there out of turn 2. Whoa, Churchill bumped to the outside.
Yeah, Churchill slows, and he gets a little push there from Eric Smith. Roger Blackstock takes advantage of that, and here goes John Stratman to the inside. Oh, look out on the front straightaway. Oh. Contact between Roger Blackstock and car number 12 and number 75, Bob Schacht. And Blackstock able to keep going, but Schacht is slowed there a bit. Oh, my, I'll tell you what, every time we get back underway racing tonight, it seems like we've got another caution.
Well, we called that one coming for a couple laps, didn't know it was coming, but you could just feel it. Everybody was trying to get back to racing, and you know, when the race's flow gets interrupted like this, you get that kind of racing. Everybody wants to jump back on it.
Take a look here at our AC Rapid Fire replay, Ron. On the inside is Bob Schacht, and you see Churchill here gets slid up of the racetrack, and he slows a little bit. Roger Blackstock says, I'm going to take advantage of this. He moves to the inside of Schacht. Here in turn 3, Schacht slips high again, so here goes Blackstock to the inside, and there's just contact. And those 2 cars are out of control. Boy, John Stratman just barely made it through there.
I'll tell you, another guy did a nice job back there on the backstretch. One of our top 5 racers is Eric Smith, and he backed out. He could have stayed in there, but he backed out and decided, hey, let these guys go. Nice move by Eric Smith there.
Well, it'll certainly be tough to break the caution record for tonight's race. We're under the 8th caution of the evening, and Frank Kimmel's Papa John's Pizza Oldsmobile coming down the front straightaway. Evidently, he's going to try to pit, Ron.
Yeah, that's not an approved way to move to the front of the field, to dive underneath all those cars. Yeah, got to be a major problem there for him to weave through all that traffic and make people dodge and bob and weave. A veteran like Frank Kimmel, he had to get off the speedway.
So Kimmel goes to the pit area. Up here, we got a shot of it. Looks like another overheating problem. Terry Shirley, the crew chief there, trying to put some water in. And look out, guys, there are some very hot race cars out there tonight. A couple of cars with overheating problems. Ready to go back to racing in 1 lap, and Ron, we've seen a lot of cautions tonight. That was kind of a crazy one before we went to break there, where Roger Blackstock and Bob Schacht got together, and so far this has just been a pretty crazy race.
It really has been hard to tell what's going to happen next, and even though Ken Schrader has led over 100 laps of this race, as we close in on the 3/4 mark, 150 laps complete of this 200 lapper, the weather has been wild, the racing has been don't know what's going to happen next. A lot of torn up race cars, a lot of spins, really uncharacteristic, but we've coming back to a racetrack that nobody has seen for 10 years.
Well, that makes a big difference. Kenny Schrader out front in the AC Delco Oldsmobile, down the front straightaway. Churchill right on his tail. And let's give a call to Scott Neal in car number 24. He has moved his way up into the hunt there, and he's in the top 5 in car 24. Eric Smith hanging on in car number 9. To the inside there is John Stratman. He's 3 laps down.
Well, Schrader would go on to win this race. It would be his 4th career victory. He's had 13 starts on this series. He won at Heartland Park, Topeka on the road course. He also won at Hagerstown Speedway, a half-mile dirt track in Pennsylvania. And he also posted a victory at Indianapolis at the Mile Dirt there at the Indiana State Fairgrounds. That was in 1994. So Schrader has won a lot of different racetracks. You'd think he'd only run like super speedway races, but he comes and dices it up on a short track.
You know, an interesting thing, I talked to Kenny before the race started, and I said, what made you decide to fly up here and go racing? He said, man, it's a long weekend. We have an early race today. They started that race at Daytona today at 11 in the morning. He said, I got a lot of racing to go, and he'll be competing here tonight. And then, of course, tomorrow, the next race on the ARCA Bondo Mar-Hyde schedule is back at the Flat Rock Speedway. What do you think Schrader's going to do? He's going to drive his car there.
Schrader was at Flat Rock for an autograph session 2 or 3 weeks ago. And his wife Ann was there with him and asked Ann, what are you doing the holiday weekend? She says, we're racing. You know we're racing. Now, Timmy Kohuth and the crew guys, they just soon have a couple days off, but Kenny said, hey, after we race on Sunday, you'll have Monday and Tuesday.
Well, no, Monday he's going to go drive his little dirt car back over in Illinois somewhere. So Schrader is the racer's racer, no doubt about it. Scott Neal here putting some pressure on number 9, Eric Smith. A good run tonight for Scott Neal, and they are currently fighting it out for second and third position.
That is a good race for second and third. Your leader is Ken Schrader. That's a white 52, the AC Delco car. Randy Churchill and the red and white car number 44, the Dart Machine Great Northern Transport. They've got a good race going for first, but like you said, that race for second place, Scott Neal in the 24, Eric Smith in the 9, that's a good one.
And Marvin Smith has moved his Riverside Chevrolet right up into the hunt there too, so don't count him out. Anytime we're at a short track race, you never know if Marvin Smith's going to win or lose till the checkered flag falls.
Marvin Smith driving the bright orange car number 1. You'll be able to see it come into your screen right there. That car is owned by Jim Coyle. He's a 4-time ARCA Bondo Mar-Hyde Series National Car Owner Champion. The crew chief on the car is Carl Smith, and that's Marvin's brother, and he's a real veteran racer himself. Ray Churchill is beginning to move up and take a look to the inside, and that's where we saw him make the pass earlier.
And I think lap traffic could come into play here, Ron. We've seen that happen 2 or 3 times tonight. They're moving up right now on car number 61, David Frog Hall from Blue Springs, Missouri, and we'll see what Frog does. Oh, he stays down to the inside, gives these guys room to race, so Schrader takes it to the outside there, as well as Churchill and car number 9, Eric Smith. So these guys making their way through traffic with no problem at this stage of the race.
Eric Smith has picked up 10 car lengths here in the last 3 or 4 laps on those 2 lead cars. Eric Smith has moved from way behind to right up on the tail of Randy Churchill. He is going to be a contender here. He finished second at Killcare, like I said, just a couple of weeks ago, so Eric Smith is right in the hunt.
You know, we've got a couple of guys that, as we've been watching them tonight, seem to maybe have been conserving their tires a little bit. Marvin Smith is one of those guys. He knows that it's a 200-lap race. He's been hanging back there a little bit. Bobby Bowser also has been kind of off the pace. Don't know if that's a motor problem or not, but Bowser conserving his tires a little bit while these two are up front racing all night long, Schrader and Randy Churchill. These other guys very well may be in the catbird seat.
As we watch the leaders dice, let's give a call to the lead lap cars as we have them here at the 3/4 mark of the race. Marvin Smith is on the lead lap, as is Bobby Bowser. Has hung in there. He hasn't run up front, but he's still on the lead lap. Ken Schrader, Randy Churchill on your screen. Dill Whittemore is still on the lead lap, as is Scott Neal and Eric Smith. All those cars, 6 of them, still on the lead lap here with less than 50 laps to go.
Kenny Schrader leads them coming out of turn number 4 in the AC Delco entry. There's a lot of cars in position right here as they move around Bob Dodds there in car number 09. And Ron, we have to take a look at Schrader's right front wheel. He's got a very serious overheating situation in his right front brake. See if we can get a shot of that for you coming up here. Car number 52, a very, very hot right front brake.
Just put a lap on Mike Buckley there, as they did on Michael Benjamin in the Armor Star Can Meats Ford. Those cars staying down to the inside as the leaders come around, but these guys are really on a rail. These top 3 are running very, very quick laps.
They sure are, turning around here just as quickly as they qualify. Now let's see, take a look at Schrader's car here. As they come down in the turn, look how hot that right front brake is.
Going to have a weenie roast after the race there on the right front of Schrader's car.
Randy Churchill hanging in car number 44. Of course, we talk about the father and sons over the years in ARCA Bondo Mar-Hyde Series racing. Here's one of the few that have won races as a father and son team. Randy Churchill won. Jerry, of course, won at the Killcare Speedway back about 4 or 5 years ago. Frank Kimmel out on the racetrack tonight. He's another one of those, as well as Bobby Bowser.
Yeah, Frank Kimmel's father, Bill Kimmel, a winner on this series, as was Jack Bowser. In fact, Jack Bowser, whoop, and there goes your pass for the lead. Randy Churchill looks to the inside of Ken Schrader, just drives right underneath him. Now let's see if Schrader comes back on it.
He really made a good move there in turn number 2. See if Schrader can set it up, and no, Randy Churchill is out front there in car number 44. Churchill making a nice move, and here comes Eric Smith. Smith takes a look to the outside of Schrader, but he loses some ground there in turn 2.
It really was a nice move. It was a clean pass underneath, and it wasn't a situation where he banged to get by him, when we've seen quite a bit of banging here tonight, but that was a clean pass for the lead. And Churchill is staying out front. Schrader like to get back up there and get by him, but these guys are racing pretty good. We talked, right there's Bobby Bowser in the Quality Farm and Fleet Ford. His father, Jack Bowser, the second winningest driver in ARCA history.
And we're going to take another short break here at Owosso. Back in just a moment. Don't go away.
Back at Owosso Speedway in Michigan, and look at this action, Ray. They're really bumping and grinding. And why? Less than 25 laps remaining in this 200-lapper here at Owosso Speedway, the Engineered Components 200 for the ARCA Bondo Mar-Hyde Supercar Series.
Marvin Smith there moving down the back straightaway, racing with Donnie LeDuc and Mark Gibson there in the Atlas Copco Tools Chrysler. Some great racing all the way around this racetrack, and Bob Hill seems to have slowed down a bit there in car 46. We saw just coming down the front straightaway was Scott Neal in number 24, and he blew by Hill, so evidently they're off the pace a bit there, Larry Clements Chevrolet.
In your frame here is your race for the lead. Randy Churchill leads in 44, Ken Schrader runs second in 52, and Eric Smith by no means out of the hunt in car number 9.
Well, things seem to have settled down a bit here in the later stages. Churchill made a nice move to get around Kenny Schrader. He's the leader now, and look, straight ahead of him, absolutely no traffic. So Randy Churchill has the run of the racetrack now. We'll see if he's able to keep it up front there. Schrader and third place position Eric Smith, they seem to have all distanced out about 2 car lengths between each other.
Well, I think they realize at this point, you know, we've got about 20 laps to go, and it's not a panic situation. You've got to make your move right now, but they don't want to let Churchill get too far away from him either, because they're going to need to be able to make that move if they've got anything left in the car. Now, Churchill is beginning to develop a significant push up to the top of the racetrack, especially exiting turn 2 and 4. We'll have to keep an eye on that, because Schrader sure is.
Yeah, Schrader is watching him, and look at this. Eric Smith has moved right up there, too. He is certainly keeping him in contention here. You know, we talked about Randy Churchill winning out at I-70, one of those father and son teams. When he won that race, it was in convincing fashion. He ran away from the field, but that's certainly not the case tonight, because Schrader and Eric Smith said, no way, man, we're going to hang right with you.
Randy's going to have to work for this one tonight if he's able to post his second career victory. Ken Schrader and Eric Smith right behind him. They're going to have something to say about that. And they're moving up, Ray, on some of that 2 wide and even 3 wide at time lap traffic, along with the other cars on the lead lap, those guys that are trying to stay on this lead lap.
Yeah, I just said how clear the racetrack is, but when you get around here in 14 seconds, it can really happen in a hurry, changing the traffic pattern. There goes Bob Dodds, another lap down in the Numerics Unlimited Chevrolet, moving up on Glenn Brewer, who's had a pretty rough evening tonight. And look at this, they go 2 wide down there, splitting some traffic, and Schrader now is right back up on the bumper, Randy Churchill, and look at this traffic ahead of them. Perry Tripp in car 6, Donnie LeDuc, lots of cars are going to have to overtake, and some of that happens right in the middle of the turn.
Yeah, that's for sure. Perry Tripp will be the first car they'll have to get around. Then comes Frog Hall and Frog's Import Salvage Buick. He's going to be the next car they'll need to move around. That's the yellow car there, number 61. Oh, there's a spin.
Yeah, car number 40, that is Michael Benjamin, who has spun right in front of the leaders, and what a great job both of those guys did to get around that. So Benjamin's Armor Star meets number 40. Well, I don't even think that's going to bring out the yellow, so he gets the car going again, and we're back underway. Well, look out, there's a spin down in turn number 4 with the leaders. Randy Churchill and Kenny Schrader make contact, and everybody's taking evasive action.
Boy, oh boy, Schrader was underneath Churchill, and you could see that Schrader ducked underneath Churchill coming out of 4. They were side by side. Churchill brought his car back down. A racing accident, obviously, racing for the lead here with about 10 laps to go in this race.
I'm wondering if Randy Churchill's spotter might have told him that there was a car that spun over in that turn, because Michael Benjamin had spun over in turn 4. Churchill may have slowed down. Let's see if we can get another look at it.
Yeah, let's pick it up. There's Benjamin. He has spun. He pulls up onto the speedway. Mrs. Mark Gibson, Mrs. Andy Hillenberg. Down at the bottom. Ooh, look at that.
Boy, Churchill really pinched it in the turn there, and Schrader had already made the commitment. I think you're right. That's just a racing accident. Nobody's fault there.
Yeah, these are guys that are racing for the lead here with 10 laps to go, and Ken Schrader has got a flat right front tire. Flat right front for Schrader. Churchill has already gone to the pits. There goes your first and second place cars to the pit area.
That's certainly going to take Schrader out of contention here. The time it's going to take him to change that tire back there. So Eric Smith and car number 24, Scott Neal, really did a nice job of avoiding that accident down there in the turn. See if I think Schrader's in the pits. We can get a shot of that. I don't know what they're doing back there. Well, they're definitely changing the tire.
Well, what a break for Eric Smith, a guy that's been running so strong, especially this season with this new car, and to be able to pick up the lead here with just a very, very few remaining laps here at Owosso.
Yeah, we're going to get a green-white checker finish to this race, Ron. So Schrader back there, looks like they're changing both right side tires and adding some fuel, but he's out of contention tonight.
Yeah, that's for sure. So here we have it. I'll set it up for you. It's going to be green first time by, white next time by, checkered the second time by. They'll complete 2 full laps, and that's the rule if they're ARCA short track races.
A couple of drivers there trying to figure out who should be in what position. Looks like Dill Whittemore and Marvin Smith arguing back there about who should be where, but looks like Whittemore might get the spot. I don't know. I'm sure ARCA President Bob Loga is letting them know who should be racing where, and yeah, Whittemore is ahead of Marvin Smith.
Yeah, they're both lead lap cars, and I'll tell you, anybody on the lead lap's got a shot at winning this race, and that's Eric Smith, Scott Neal, Dill Whittemore, Marvin Smith, Bowser, and Churchill and Schrader both got service to come out and stay on the lead lap, but look at them. They're back at the tail of that line of cars.
Yeah, 6 or 7 cars ahead of them, so it's going to be really tough with just 3 to go here. The white flag is out. We're ready to go back to racing, and Ron, if Eric Smith could hold on tonight, this would be his first ever career win, and the green flag is out. 3 to go.
3 to go. The guy right behind him, Scott Neal, he won last year at Salem. He'd sure like to take a crack at Eric Smith. And there he goes high. He's going to try to make the pass up high.
Neal makes a look to the outside, but down the back straightaway, lots of great horsepower coming out of that Southtown Motorsports Ford. Here comes Dill Whittemore in number 56. He's a rookie, and he slides it sideways out of turn 4. Maybe trying a little bit too hard there. The white flag is in the air. Here comes Neal. Can he do it? Nope. Look at this. Eric Smith powers down the back straightaway, and he'll pick up his first ever career win tonight here at the Owosso Speedway. Eric Smith is your winner. Very crazy race, huh?
Well, that's a nice, I'll tell you what that's nice for. That's nice for Cleve Smith, the guy from Bloomington, Illinois, who raced on this series in the late 60s, early 70s. Didn't have a lot of resources, comes back, and here he's a winner in 1995.
And when we come back, we'll meet tonight's winner.
Well, the race winner in his 70th career start on the series, Eric Smith. Let's go to victory lane with Ray Dunlap.
Well, congratulations, Eric Smith. Boy, I'll tell you what, we knew you were going to win one sometime. Tonight was a great race.
Well, it's been a long time. I didn't know if I could do it or not. I was just trying to stay right with them and not lose them, get them out of my sight, so I can't believe it.
You guys have really stepped up this program with this Southtown Motorsports Ford, and you've been in contention the last 4 or 5 races you've been in, but boy, tonight, you hung right there with the leaders all night long.
Yeah, we really never done anything different. We just keep working the car a little bit, and I think the more that I'm driving, the better I get, the more I can tell the crew what to do on setting the car up. They've been doing a great job of doing that.
Well, congratulations. Tell me what you saw right in front of you when Kenny Schrader and the 44 car got together.
I didn't know what I was going to do. I stood on the brakes, and I seen he was going up, so I just turned left, and I was hoping it was going to be on the inside of me, and I downshifted and just kept going.
Well, congratulations. Great race out there. Your first ever ARCA Bondo Mar-Hyde Supercar Series wins. Got to feel pretty good.
Oh, it's great. Thank you very much.
Congratulations. That's Eric Smith down in victory lane. Now back up to you, Ron.
And here's your SK Tools field summary. 28th finisher, Chet Blanton, first car out. Dave Simcoe had a lot of problems, 27th. Tim Preby is 26th. The rookie, the teenager, A.J. Henriksen, he gets a learning experience, comes home 25th on the field here at Owosso Speedway. The 24th finisher, a guy that hasn't had a lot of luck this year in the HS-Dye Simlink Chevrolet, Tim Steele, the 93 ARCA Bondo Mar-Hyde Series champion. Frank Kimmel, the championship runner-up from last season, finishes 23rd in Terry Shirley's Papa John's Pizza Oldsmobile. Mike Buckley, he's going to finish 22nd in the Enterprise Technical Services Pontiac. John Stratman in the BFI Recycle Now Ford, he's 21st. Glenn Brewer, and he was a 90 Rookie of the Year. He's run every race, finishing in the top 10 in points every season. The CSR Lewandowski Construction Olds, he's 20th. And David Hall, the Frogs Import Salvage Buick, is 19th. Point leader coming into the event had never finished out of the top 10. Chalk that one off. Andy Hillenberg from Charlotte, North Carolina, the Fast Track Driving School Chevrolet. Long day for him. He'll finish 18th after running at Daytona earlier today. Bob Dodds in the Numerics Unlimited Ford. He'll be 17th. Terry Tripp from Fredericktown, Missouri in the WW Transport Motorcycle Stuff Old. He's 16th on the grid. Michael Benjamin in the Armor Star Can Meets Pontiac will finish 15th. Jody Guerra and Harris Devane, they'll finish just ahead of him. Now your top 12 finishers, Bob Hill, the Story City, Iowa driver, and Larry Clements Chevrolet. He'll be 12th. He's top 5 in the series point standings. Mark Gibson and Charlie Newby's Atlas Copco Tools Chrysler comes up for an 11th place finish. Bob Schacht hung in all day in the Engineered Components Ford, logs a top 10 finish. Roger Blackstock from Shelby Township, Michigan, he's going to be 9th in his own Pontiac. Donnie LeDuc will be 8th in the Tech 3 Prototypes Olds. Ken Schrader hangs on for 7th after the late race spin. Of course, the driver that he crashed with, Randy Churchill, hangs on for 6th. That's a Dart Machine Beaver Express Chevrolet. Bobby Bowser, the defending series champion, a nice top 5 finish after the Talladega Pole Award in the Quality Farm and Fleet Ford. Marvin Smith from Riverside Auto Parts Chevrolet, he's going to be 4th. Dill Whittemore, a great best career finish in the Indiana Steel car, he's in 3rd. Scott Neal finishes 2nd in the Jack's Lawn Service Pontiac. And Eric Smith, the Southtown Motorsports Ford, crew chief by Terry Walker, owned by his father Cleve Smith, he's the winner here at Owosso.
So Eric Smith picks up his first ever career win in the ARCA Bondo Mar-Hyde Supercar Series. Certainly glad you joined us tonight. Of course, the race being brought to you by Bondo Body Filler, the best name in auto body products, and by Mar-Hyde Paints. The smoothest finish in paints for automobiles, choose Mar-Hyde. Ray Dunlap along with Ron Drager bringing you tonight's broadcast. We certainly appreciate you joining us, and we'll see you next time at the races.